One of the major commonalities you'll see with all the best servers in the world is they're able to consistently put the ball in this exact location time and time again. How many of you watching the video right now have real troubles putting the ball toss in the location of which you want it? Without that consistent ball toss placement, it's very difficult to execute all of the other key components in your serve. Over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to be teaching you concepts like mastering your toss and arm structure, where exactly to toss the ball in relation to your body and also the tennis court, and also how to synchronize your new ball toss with your swing.
Before we get started with this ball toss lesson, my name is James Ludlow and I'm an instructor here at Online Tennis Instruction. And what I'd like to quickly request before we go ahead with the lesson, please go below this video and comment where you're watching from. It always fascinates me when I see the different locations around the world. So go ahead right now and comment that location. And now let's get right into this lesson. Let's get started on stage one, which is all about your toss and arm structure and how you hold the ball. Now, this stage right here is like the foundations of a house. If you don't have this right, everything else is not really going to work. So for step one, what you want to see, let's talk about the toss and arm structure. And the first thing you're going to see is you want to try to have a straight tossing arm. Why? With a straight toss arm, you can now lift this toss arm as one unit. So it essentially allows you to be a lot more consistent around the release point. The problem many players have is they have a bend in their toss arm. And when you bend your toss arm like this, it's now a lot easier to activate your two other moving joints, which would be your wrist or your elbow. And any moving factors like this with your ball toss around the release just means you have to time it perfectly. So by focusing on just straightening your toss arm out, you can now lift this arm as one unit and you can be consistent now around the release point. Now that we have the toss arm structure set, now it's time to talk about how you hold the ball. Now, holding the ball is very important and it's something that a lot of players get wrong. So what's the general recommendation? General guideline, when you're holding the ball, you want to hold it in your fingertips, just like this. Now, where exactly in your fingertips? If you look at my hand here, you should see these lines here just at the top of the fingertips. You have two sets of them, but you want to go to the top of these lines. And then what you want to try to do is place the ball in the top of the lines, just like that. So look at it with my other hand here. I'm just placing it here, just in my fingertips. Now, the issue a lot of players have, they hold the ball too far down in their palm. So they palm it like this. And the issue with this, when you hold it in your palm, when you go to the release point, the ball is more likely to roll out of your fingers. And when it rolls, the ball is going to start rotating through the air. And again, you've just added now another factor to try and control, which means you're going to be less consistent. Now that we understand how to hold the ball effectively, one other quick thing we have to discuss is the angle of your hand around the release point. And what I mean by this, a lot of players have one extreme where they point the palm of their hand directly up to the sky. Now, some players can get away with this, but what we find with a lot of players when they have this effect, they activate their wrist because the palm is pointing directly up to the sky. So what we tell these players that have problems with this look, we try to tell them that try to imagine that you're holding more of a glass of water. So you're turning the palm slightly out to this direction here, as you can see. Now, this can be challenging for players, but the reason it's more beneficial is as soon as I turn my palm in this direction, it's a lot more difficult to activate the wrist. But if you do struggle with this, where it's completely more like a glass of water, try to go midway between the two. So instead of holding the glass of water, you just tilt it slightly to the side. So now the thumb on the ball is pointing directly up to the sky, as you can see right there. And this again is just going to eliminate any movement from the wrist, which will make it more consistent when you release the ball. So to summarize stage one, which is all about your toss and arm structure and how you hold the ball. First thing you want to see is a straight tossing arm, and you want to maintain that straight tossing arm as you lift from the shoulder and complete your tossing action. Step two then goes into how you hold the ball. You want to hold it in your fingertips, as you see right here, and then try to imagine that you're holding more of a glass of water, so you eliminate any moving factors when you come to the release point. Now, to work on stage one, all you have to do, without even hitting a ball, just get a ball in your hand. You can do this also in the comfort of your own home. Start where the hand is low, near your knee, and just first step, get that arm fully straight, toss arm. Now from here, all I want you to do is lift the toss arm from the shoulder and just go to a high finish and release, just like this, I don't want you to do anything else. I just want you to go down low, straight tossing arm, ball in the fingertips, and just lift from the shoulder. And feel that the arm is maintaining a straight position all the way throughout the tossing action. Now, before we go any further into this video, I just want to say that I know a lot of you watching this right now are currently working on your serve, and you're probably feeling stuck, or you feel that you can't break a certain habit on the serve. And I sympathize with that a lot, because I was a player myself, and I spent many years rebuilding my whole motor programming on my serve, and it took me a very long time. Now, if you are struggling right now and you feel like you need just a little bit of help and assistance, I just want to let you know that we do have a $10 trial which will allow you to get a personalized video analysis from one of our trained OTI instructors. And the OTI instructors are trained specifically to identify your main issue on the serve and help you transform it by fixing that main issue. So if you are interested in getting a personalized video review for just $10, then please go ahead and go beneath the video for more information. Now let's move on to stage 2, which is all about how the ball travels in the air and how it's a major factor to developing more effortless power on your serve. Now that we have your toss and arm structure set, it's time to talk about the ball flight and how the ball should move throughout the air. Now this may seem quite simple, but it's something that a lot of players get wrong. The general recommendation, you want to see that when you release the ball travels in a slight right to left manner throughout the air, as you can see on the screen right now. Now, why is this right to left movement so important, and why did it develop more power on your serve? The reason this right to left movement is so important is because in order to achieve it, what do I have to do? I have to turn my upper body away from the target and against the level of my hips. And when I do this, when I turn the shoulders against my hips, I now start to store energy in my body, and I start to utilize what we call the kinetic chain. Now, how far should you turn away when you're tossing the ball? There's varying degrees to this. Some players like Federer, he turns his upper body to the point where his tossing arm is parallel and in line with the baseline. Other players like Novak, he'll turn his body to the point where the tossing arm is approximately at a 45-degree angle into the court. And then after he releases, he'll then coil a little bit more. So general guideline, if you can at least get your tossing arm pointing at approximately a 45-degree angle into the court, this will give you a sufficient upper body turn and help you also generate more power. Now, what happens when players don't utilize their upper body at all? What you see, they start off too frontal, and by being so frontal, the ball ends up moving in more of a straight up and down line. So there's no right to left movement throughout the air. And that's why getting that ball flight where the ball moves from right to left is so important, because it tells us that you've utilized this upper body coiling. Now, how can we go about working on turning the upper body away from the target? There are a few simple ways you can do it. The first very effective drill, you can start with your feet parallel to the baseline like this. So you're already set frontal to the net, and then you just hit a couple of serves like this, because now it's going to force me to turn away from the target. And when I turn away, I'm going to start to feel the stretching down more the side of my body. Let me just show you a couple here. I turn away and I hit. I turn away and I hit. I'm just going relatively down the line, not worrying about where the ball goes. And that's a very effective way to help me feel this turning of the upper body against my hips. After giving that a go with the open stance drill, you can then go ahead and just do a couple of shadow swings where you set up your feet just like you would be serving now, and just feel that you're turning the shoulders away from the target and against the level of the hips. And just do some shadow swings like that. And just feeling the shoulders turning away. And then you can go ahead and hit some balls, feeling the upper body turning away. So in terms of where the optimal contact point should be, looking from the back angle, what you should see, when I swing up to contact, you'll see that my contact point should roughly be in line with my right hitting shoulder. And to achieve that, see how the racket is also on the inside of my hand. And it completes what we call a power triangle, which is a major power position. Many players have the opposite effect, where they either go too far out to the right and the racket is too directly above the hand, or they toss too far to the left and they make contact out here somewhere. And in both of these positions, you're not really going to maximize your potential power or consistency. So now that we know where the ball should be in relation to our body, The question now is, where should the ball be in relation to the court? So looking from the side angle, you should see how when I toss the ball and I make contact, I should approximately be around 1 to 2 feet inside the court. So if the ball was to land, it would be landing here inside. Now, why is it so important that you toss the ball into the court? You hear coaches say this all the time, toss further in, toss further in. But most of us don't really have the understanding as to why we should do this. The reason we want to do this, when you look at your racket head speed and how it builds in momentum as you go throughout the swing, your racket picks up and maximizes at velocity around 2 to 3 feet out in front of you. If you used to do a shadow swing with the racket and you listen out for the swoosh of the racket, you hear the swoosh out in front of you. So if you actually toss the ball behind you, you're actually making contact with the ball when the racket hasn't reached its full velocity. So you're going to actually miss out on power by doing this. The other problem is, the further the ball goes behind your head, the more likely it's going to be for you to miss the ball long. So it also messes up your ball flight in terms of getting the ball consistently in that service box. So to summarize your ideal contact point, try to get the ball in line with your right hitting shoulder or your hitting shoulder if you're looking from the back angle, and also get the ball traveling around 1 to 2 feet inside the court, and that's going to be your optimal location for the ball toss. Now, how do you go about working on finding and optimizing the ball toss location? You can use a very simple drill like this, where I've got the fence here, and fortunate for me on this fence, I've got this sign here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to set myself up just like I would be serving, and I'm going to swing to contact. And for this, you can see that essentially the O, the 0 here, is going to replicate my contact point. And I'm going to ensure that it lines also with my right hitting shoulder, like this. And once I've found that position, if you don't, by the way, if you don't have a sign for this, you can simply just put a ball up in a fence or use just tape on a wall. You can be very creative with this. But now what I'm going to do from here, once I've found the location and I'm set in the right place like this, I'm now going to toss the ball, and my objective is the ball is going to travel from right to left, and then it's going to ideally fall down over the 0. And if it falls down over the 0, then I know that the ball is in the right location. And do keep in mind, because the ball is moving in a right to left manner, once it falls down over the 0, it will then fall down over to the left side because I'm not making contact with the ball. So just watch 1 or 2 here. I'm going to set myself up and I'm going to toss the ball just like that. And also I should see that I'm standing around 1 to 2.5 feet away from the fence. So the ball is also going out in front of me. Let's see 1 or 2 more. I toss. That was a little bit to the right, sorry. So what I got to do is release a little bit later. Just like that. Moving on to stage 4, we're going to talk about the height of the ball toss and how it plays a very important role in developing effortless power on your serve. Now at OTI, we firmly believe that a lower ball toss is more effective for your serve, not only for more consistency with placement of the ball toss, but also for more effortless power. A few reasons we think this. With a lower ball toss, the first thing you're going to find is, because the ball is lower, it's going to be a lot easier to control the placement of your ball toss. As soon as I start to go too high with the ball toss, I now have to deal with varying factors like wind and weather, but also the higher it goes, there's going to be more room for deviations in terms of the placement. So lowering the ball toss is going to help with the placement and the consistency. The second benefit for a lower ball toss is you have more time to make contact with the ball. Now I know this probably doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense, because most players tell you, or coaches I should say, to toss the ball higher to give you more time. But the reason this is bad advice in general, the higher your ball goes, the more it increases with incoming speed as it falls. And the quicker it starts to fall, the less time you have now to make contact with the ball. And you often find players, when they toss the ball too high, they find themselves jammed up at contact because the ball has fallen too much and they've mistimed it. The lower the ball toss goes, if this is my strike zone, the ball is going to go up, it's going to apex in my strike zone, and then it's going to start to fall. So if you think of it logically, the ball is actually within my strike zone a lot longer if I have a lower ball toss. The higher it goes well up out of my strike zone, and then it falls through the strike zone a lot quicker. So again, you're just relying on timing. So in general, contrary to many beliefs, the lower ball toss is going to give you more timing. Now, do just keep in mind, obviously, different players have variations with the rhythm on their serve. Like for myself, I have quite a big delay between my tossing arm and my hitting arm. So naturally, my ball is going to be just a little bit higher than what we usually recommend. But always just try to ensure that you're not going too high to where you mess up the rhythm in your serve. Now, the third and final benefit for a lower ball toss is my racket is naturally going to be moving more fluidly up to contact. The higher it goes, the more likely the racket is going to stop somewhere throughout my swing. But when the ball is lower, the racket has no choice. It has to move fluidly throughout the swing. And with a more fluid motion, you can see how you're going to get a lot more effortless power on the serve. So what is the general recommendation for the height of your ball toss? Try to go around 6 to 12 inches above your extended point of contact. So the ball, you still want the ball to be falling a little bit. That's a key factor, but it's not going too high above that point. Now, when working on the ball toss height, I have a very simple drill I like to do with players, or I should say visualization. Imagine you go inside the court for this and you're not even going to hit the ball. But what I want you to imagine, in front of you, you have a bookshelf. And the height of the bookshelf is very near your contact point where you'll be striking the ball. And your objective, you want to place the ball up on top of the bookshelf. And when it lands, it should just land smoothly and not roll or bounce anywhere. If the ball goes too high, it's going to bounce away. So just think you're placing the ball up and just having it land on the bookshelf. Let me just show you a couple. So I can even isolate here in the half serve, and I just think place the ball up there. And again, place, just like that. And just by having that visualization in mind, it's going to help me control the height a little bit more. Now, the other thing which will help players with this, the speed at which you would initiate your toss in action plays a big role in the height of the toss. What I mean by this, many players go too quick in the beginning when they release. The quicker your arm picks up speed, the higher the ball is going to start to go. So if you want to lower the ball toss, try to go slower in the beginning of your swing. That's going to help you control the height of the toss. And again, just do a couple then where you just place the ball on the bookshelf, do a couple of times, feeling that control, and then you can go ahead and actually hit the ball from there. Now, in terms of coordinating your ball toss with your swing, my general recommendation to players, you want to almost feel that you're initiating and tossing the ball first. And the ideal scenario is when you get to the release point, which is approximately eye level, your arm should be in this half serve position. So the tip of the racket to the outside, elbow raised. So that's the timing. As I release, I'm in the half serve. So then after I release the ball, I can initiate my hitting arm action. Most players, what they do, they have two variations. They either initiate their hitting arm action too early before they release the ball. The problem with that is your racket now has to stop because, you know, the ball is traveling up in the air and your racket has to stop somewhere in order to still make contact with the ball. The other variation, players, they toss the ball and they just wait too long. And then the ball is falling and then they try to rush the swing and they abbreviate everything. So try to feel, you release the ball, then you initiate your hitting arm action. Let me just show you one or two here. I release and I go. I release and go. And that's the rhythm that you want to try to find. Now you can work on this in a very simple way. I call it the toss and hold drill. So what you'll essentially do, you'll start in your regular position and you're going to toss the ball, but you're not going to hit. You're simply going to toss and hold in the half serve position and feel that as you're releasing, the arm has reached the half serve. So it looks like this, toss and hold. Let's do that a few times. Toss and hold. And then after you've done that and you feel comfortable, you go toss and hold and then initiate your swing. So it goes toss, hold, go. Just like that. So that's it for today's lesson on the ball toss mechanics. And I wanted to try to cover the main key fundamentals that you need to master your ball toss. Now obviously there's a lot of information here all within one video. So what you want to try and do is find the one key point that relates to your ball toss and just focus on that. So for example, it may be just getting the toss arm structure and then lifting from the shoulder. And if you just get that, you're going to get more of a consistent ball toss. But yeah, I really hope that this information helped you today. If it did, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel and like the video for more content like this in the future.
Right now, we have a special trial of our OTI Digital Coach available for you. It not only gives you access to all our video courses and modules, but you will also receive your own personalized video analysis from one of our OTI certified instructors. Simply send us a video of the stroke of your choice during your trial, and you will receive a voiceover video analysis with laser-focused feedback on how you can transform that stroke into a real weapon. Simply click the link inside or below this video for all the details.